Okay, I hit the wrong button. My bad. We're going to call that the prelude to Keturah, the third wife of Abraham. Okay? I'm going to start this study right here. Much has been made about a young woman marrying old men for their money, fame, and or fortune. Abraham had all these when he remarried after the death of his wife Sarah. And Abraham was old and well stricken in age. And the Lord had blessed Abraham in all things. Genesis 24:1. The widower Abraham was over 137 years old when he remarried a very young woman of childbearing age named Keturah. Then again Abraham took a wife, and her name was Keturah, and she bare him Zimran, Jokashan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. And Jochebed begot Sheba, and Dedan, and the sons of Dedan were Ashurim, Letushim, Lemimon, and the sons of Midian were Ephah, Epher, Hanok, Abidah, Eldah. And these were the children of Keturah, and Abraham gave all that he had unto Isaac. Keturah bore Abraham 6 sons and took care of him until he died at the ripe old age of 175. Genesis 25:7-8. It's interesting that many Bible scholars overlook the fact that Shem, Noah's youngest son on the ark, the founder of the Abraham's Shemitic heritage, was still alive at the time of Abraham's death. Father Shem, Noah's son, outlived Father Abraham by 35 years. According to Genesis 11:10-26. When he died at the ripe old age of 600 years. The origin of Abraham's third wife, Keturah, is not disclosed in the biblical record, although many other sources allege she was a Canaanite. However, much evidence in Scripture leads us to believe Keturah was indeed a descendant of Ham through one of her sons other than Canaan. For it is highly unlikely that Abraham would himself marry a Canaanite, because in choosing a wife for his favorite son Isaac, he gave strict instructions that his son was not to wed any of the daughters of the Canaanites. In Genesis 24:1. Abraham testified, instilled that in Isaac. And when Isaac and his wife Rebekah were considering bridal prospects for their twins, they agreed that the daughters of Heth Canaanite women were not to be considered. Jacob honored his parents' wishes to marry within his Shemitic lineage, but did not promote these marital values to his 12 sons. However, his twin brother Esau married Canaanite women to spite his parents. Isaac and Rebekah in Genesis 26, 34, 1 through 9. Nevertheless, one must remember that Abraham did not mind making his seed with the descendants of Ham's race, named Hagar the Egyptian from the land of Ham. Genesis 21:9, 16 through 1. Abraham mixed his seed with African concubine Hagar and produced Ishmael, the first Arab, of whom it was prophesied that he would be wild and contentious. This was in Genesis 16 and 12. Unfortunately, many Christians view Ishmael as the father of the Arabians and thus conclude that all Arabians are of wild disposition. Thus, they believe they have a God-given right to view all Arabians as wild. There they go with that blanket again. This belief is not according to the teachings of Scripture. Only Ishmael and his descendants were cursed of being wild, as only Canaan and his descendants bore the curse, not all black people. See, that's another form of discrimination, and that's another misuse of the understanding of the Scripture text. When you take a whole group of people and you put them into a category, such as what he's saying, because the book that we're studying from is the original blacks in the Bible. The blacks in the Bible, the original roots of men and women of color in the Scriptures. And this book was written by James H. Wharton Jr. Okay? And what he is trying to get us to understand through these teachings that God has allowed me to receive for diversity and understanding of who we are in the Bible. Because on my quest, that was my question. And this was what he gave me. And this is what he taught me to teach. So me being obedient to who God is in my life, obedience is better than sacrifice. So I need you to understand, okay, that this discrimination of taking all of the people who are of Arabic nationality and grouping all of them together under Ishmael is very wrong. Much like taking everybody of the descendants of Ham and grouping all of them under the Canaanites is wrong. It's wrong. Only the descendants of Canaan and only the descendants of Ishmael. And you need to understand that. It's not everybody. As we move forward. Canaan and his descendants bore his curse, not all black people, as only Giza and his descendants were cursed with disease that turned their skin as white as snow forever. So we had Giza out of the tribe of Japheth. We had Ishmael out of the tribe of Ishmael. It's out of the tribe of Shem through Abraham. Ishmael. And we got Canaan out of the tribe of Ham. These individual lines of people were cursed, not the entire tribe. And that's the understanding you need to wrap your mind around, is that Giza incurred the curse from the tribe of Japheth, turning his skin leper white. Giza got that curse, not the entire tribe of Japheth. Because Giza's disease turned their skin white as snow forever. That means until God come back. And not the whole race of Japheth, the father of the Caucasian race. And that's in 2 Kings 5. Verses 25 to 27. You go check it out. It'll tell you about the curse of Giza. Okay? The belief that all Arabs are wild is not based on scripture. Just like the entire tribe of Japheth being cursed by Giza. No, that's not scripturally based. That's intentionally based from your own prejudice and lack of interpretation knowledge. Some Christians hold racist views, none of which are encouraged, much less by the Holy Scriptures. Scriptures have never encouraged racism. Never. God is not a racist God. Because if you want to pass out curses, everybody got one. At least one across the board. The tribe of Shem has Ishmael. The tribe of Ham has Canaan. And the tribe of Japheth has Giza. Everybody got a curse. In order to deduce Keturah's lineage, we must recall that Abraham mixed his Shemitic blood with Hagar's Hamitic blood to produce Ishmael, the firstborn Arabian. After Abraham married Keturah, he then fathered 6 Arabian sons by her. And this was in Genesis 1 through 25, verses 1 through 3. Through logical deduction, we can see the recipe that produced the first Arabian. Abraham mingling his Shemitic seed with the Hamitic woman, Hagar. It follows with all of Keturah's children by Abraham, who were also Arabs. Then she, like Hagar, had to be a descendant of Ham's bloodline, thus a Negroid descent. Although both women were descendants of Ham, neither Keturah nor Hagar were Canaanites. Neither one of them was from a cursed bloodline. Neither woman. Arabians acknowledge allegiance to Abraham as their father, but give no thought to their first founding black mothers, Hagar or Keturah. In modern slang, the Shemitic lineage is all about who's your daddy. So the major difference between the Arabs and the Shemitic people is the fact that the Arabs had Hagar and Keturah, who were African women. That's it. It's a mixture of Shemitic and black that makes the Arab. And the Arab was not cursed, only the line of Ishmael. The differences between the 12 Arabian tribes from Hagar's son's lineage and the 6 Arabian tribes who came through Keturah was that Keturah's Arabian offspring were not prophesied to be wild like Hagar's. See? They were never prophesied to be wild. Keturah and Abraham's Arab children founded Arabian nations such as the Medanites, the Medes in Iran, the Persians of Iraq, Sheba of the East, and Dedan or Saudi Arabia. These were all Abraham's descendants through Keturah. Thus we see flawed logic in Christians who conclude that all Arabians were descendants of Ishmael and therefore were of wild nature. By comparing Scripture with Scripture, we have determined that Keturah, like Hagar, was of non-Canaanite Hamitic blood, although we cannot determine from which non-cursed line of Ham she originated. Okay. Jewish historian Flavius Josephus supplied information about how Africa derived its name from Abraham's children by Keturah. Josephus's account is older and differs considerably from European versions. According to the works of Josephus, these sons and grandsons of Abraham by Keturah settled in colonies. As they took possessions of the troglodytes and the country of Arabia the Happy, as far as it reaches to the Red Sea. It is related that Ophran, that he made war against Libya and took it, and his grandchildren, when they inhabited it, called it from his name, Africa. Josephus further supports his claim by citing a source of contemporary in his day. And indeed, Alexander Polyhistor gives us a astringent to what I say, who speak thus. Cleomodius, the prophet, who was also called Malachus, wrote a history of the Jews in agreement with the history of Moses. Their legislature relates that there were many sons born to Abraham by Keturah. Nay, he names 3 of them, Apher, A-P-H-E-R, and Sumrim, S-U-R-I-M, and Japhram, G-A-P-H-R-A-N. And from Sumrim, A-S-U-R-I-M, the Ashur, A-S-S-H-U-R, was the land of Assyria dominated. And from that, the other two, Apher and Japhram, A-P-H-E-R and J-A-P-H-R-A-N, where the country of Africa took its name. Africa's name originated from descendants of the great Abraham and his Hamitic bride Keturah, who led an Arabian invasion of this land of the black man. Their descendants still occupy major portions of North Africa to this day. Isn't it interesting how this fact regarding Africa's name has been concealed by scholars who regularly consult the works of Josephus? Abraham's children by Keturah were influential in how Africa obtained its name, which is one of the best kept secrets in biblical black history. And on that note, that's your spiritual vitamin for the day. And we're going to close out this lesson on Hagar and Keturah, the two most powerful women in the Middle East. Be blessed, my beloved. Bye-bye.